was Wally, and I watched it on November 1st, and this one was a rewatch. And I wrote, quietly stunning masterpiece from Pixar, almost worthless for much of its runtime, yet bursting with emotion and visual poetry. And I gave this a 4.5. The second movie that we have here is The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun. I watched this one on November 2nd. Just about every frame in The French Dispatch looks like it could hang in a gallery. The colors, costumes, and transitions from color to black and white to animation are all stunning. It's Wes Anderson at his most meticulous, and every vignette feels like its own little world. Maybe not his most emotional film, but visually, absolutely unmatched. I gave this 5 stars. The Sound of Metal. Watch this one on the 2nd. Riz Ahmed gives a raw, magnetic performance that makes you feel every ounce of panic, frustration, and acceptance in Ruben's journey. The film's sound design is genius. It doesn't just tell you what deafness feels like, it immerses you in it. The ending hits hard, not because it resolves anything neatly, but because it finds peace in the chaos. And I gave this one 4.5 stars. Also on the 2nd, I watched Isle of the Dogs, another Wes Anderson movie. It's funny, melancholic, and weird in all the best ways. A gorgeous love letter to dogs and to the art of storytelling itself. I gave this one 4.5 stars. This was the last movie I watched on the 2nd. The Nightmare Before Christmas. A weird holiday classic. And I gave this 3.5 stars. Just because I'm not really that big of a fan of musicals. November 3rd. Watched Mulholland Drive. There's a blue box. There's a cowboy. There's that guy behind the diner. Never again. And I'm still not sure if it's a love story, a nightmare, or Hollywood eating itself, but I'm also kind of obsessed with it now. I gave this 4.5 stars. November 4th, I watched Barry Lyndon. Every frame looks like it could hang in a museum. I gave this 4 stars. November 5th, I watched Black Phone 2. Feels like a Nightmare on Elm Street knockoff at times. Not terrible, just forgettable. And I gave it 2.5 stars. On November 6th, I watched Lurker, a sleek, slow burn thriller that toys with obsession, power, and the thin line between admiration and control. Shot on gorgeous 16mm film with a magnetic performance from Theodore Bellerin, and I gave this 3.5 stars. November 6th, watched Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. This one was a rewatch. It's ridiculous, dated, and often juvenile, but also kind of mesmerizing in how committed Gary is to the bit. Gave this one 3.5 stars. November 7th, The Breakfast Club. This one was a rewatch. Just 5 kids stuck in detention, accidentally figuring life out. Gave this 4 stars. November 7th, watched Lost Highway. A nightmarish loop of jealousy, guilt, and identity collapse. I gave this 4 stars. November 8th, I watched Blue Velvet. An eerie dream of small town innocence colliding with sadistic desire. Gave this one 4 stars. November 10th, watched Frankenstein. A striking exploration of creation, obsession, and humanity. Not perfect, but beautifully made. And I gave this 3.5 stars. November 10th, I rewatched The Fantastic Four: First Steps. After rewatching watching it. This is now in my top 5 favorite MCU films, and I gave this 5 stars. On November 12th, I watched Suicide Room. It's like if emo Tumblr made the movie and then deleted it out of embarrassment. I gave this one a half star. This was like so bad. Like I had it on my watch list for like over a year. The only reason I wanted to watch this was just because of a meme I saw last year. It's really it. Then I saw that it was on Tubi, so I'm like, alright, let me just watch this and get it out of my watch list. Yeah, not a good movie at all. November 12th, I watched Big. It's funny, weirdly emotional, and way more wholesome than it has any right to be. November 13th, I rewatched Avatar. Great visuals, but the story did get boring at times. Gave this 3.5 stars. November 16th, I watched Nobody 2. Delivers exactly what you would expect, and not much more. Bob Odenkirk is still effortlessly compelling as such, and the film serves up another round of action sequences that feel equal parts brutal and playful. But the sequel never quite hits the surprise factor or emotional undercurrent that made the first film stand out. It's fun, fast, and satisfyingly messy, but also a bit safer and more familiar this time around. Still, if all you want is Odenkirk wrecking rooms full of bad guys with weary, dead energy, this absolutely gets the job done. And I gave this 3 stars. November 16th, I watched Honey Don't. The tone jumps around so much, it's hard to stay invested. It's like watching the season finale of a show when you've never saw the episodes in between. Whaley is fantastic, and Chris Evans as a sleazy pastor is at least entertaining. But the movie around them is too messy to land. I gave this 2 stars. November 18th, I watched One Battle After Another, a surprisingly thoughtful action ride. It jumps from conflict to conflict with confidence, but what stands out most is how much personality it packs in between the chaos. The story isn't flawless. The film's momentum and emotional clarity make it easy to stay invested. I gave this one 4 stars. November 18th, I watched Good Fortune. Now this is the quote. I tried to show him that wealth wouldn't solve all his problems. It seems to have solved most of his problems. Keanu Reeves says that line. Then I wrote, it's the kind of feel-good movie that doesn't reinvent anything, but leaves you smiling anyway. Sometimes that's all the good fortune you need. And I gave this one 4 stars. November 19th, I gave Final Destination Bloodlines a rewatch. Bloodlines is exactly the kind of revitalization this franchise needed. Familiar enough to feel like classic Final Destination, but bold enough to justify its return. The premonition sequence is one of the strongest since the highway pileup in Final Destination 2, and the new cast actually feels like real people instead of pure body count filler. The kills, inventive, mean, and beautifully choreographed. The movie leans hard into tension, drawing out every fake out and mindset, and misdirect with a sly sense of humor. It's clear the filmmakers understand that the anticipation is half of the fun. Not every character lands, and a few moments dip into self-parody, but honestly, that's part of the charm. The third act ties the story together surprisingly well. A genuinely fun, clever return to form. Death still got style. On November 20th, I rewatched The Phoenicians Game. The Phoenician scheme blends political intrigue, quiet tension, and beautifully moody cinematography into a story that feels both classic and contemporary. The pacing can be deliberate, sometimes too deliberate, but the atmosphere is so consistently absorbing that I didn't mind sinking into its rhythm. The performances carry a lot of weight, even when the plot veers into familiar territory. The cast brings enough nuance to keep every interaction compelling, and visually, the film is stunning, and I gave this 4 stars. November 20th, I gave Mickey 17 a rewatch. Smart, weird, and unexpectedly emotional. Bong Joon-ho turns a high-concept sci-fi premise into a tight, engaging story with great humor and texture. Pattinson shines, the world feels fresh, and even when the plot gets a bit loose, the film's style and personality keep it compelling. Gave this 4 stars. November 22nd, I gave F1 a rewatch. Way more fun than I expected. Racing scenes are intense. The drama actually works, and the whole thing has a slick energy that keeps it moving. It doesn't reinvent anything, but it delivers great vibes, cool cars, and just enough emotion to make the big moments hit. A really solid, fast-paced, good time. I gave this one 4 stars. November 23rd, I gave Superman a rewatch. This is exactly the Superman movie I've been waiting for. It's fun, hopeful, and just has a really good vibe from start to finish. Corn Sweat completely fits the role, bringing charm, warmth, and real hero energy. The action hits, the cast has great chemistry, and the whole thing left me smiling the entire time. I loved every minute of it, and I gave this 5 stars. November 24th, I rewatched Sinners. I was hooked the entire time. Easily one of my favorites of the year. Gave this 5 stars. November 26th, I gave Avengers Endgame a rewatch. A perfect finale, and I gave it 5 stars. November 29th, I watched Caught Stealing. Messy, chaotic, kinda confusing, but weirdly fun enough to stick around for. And I gave it 3.5 stars. On the 29th as well, I watched Oh Hi. Half clever, half cringy, and entirely forgettable once it's over. I gave this 2 stars. And the final movie that I watched this month, also on the 29th, was Blue Beetle. Pretty decent overall. The family dynamic is the best part, and Xolo Maridueña is really likable in the lead. It doesn't do anything new for superhero movies, but it's fun enough and has some nice moments. The villain is forgettable, and the pacing's a little uneven, but I still enjoyed it. Solid